Welcome YouTubers, this is Condom Man Do-It-Yourself Projects. Today we will be working on an ignition lock on a 1996 Honda Civic 4-cylinder manual transmission. So I have the new box here, which you see in the picture. Let's see, right there. There's the information for this particular year model. There we go, so you can see there. Alright. Inside that box is a new ignition and lock system. So I'm going to go over here. See, on my console, all my screws are missing, unfortunately. The person who owned it before had taken it off, I'm assuming, at one given time. And they didn't put the screws back in. So I don't have the screws on this one. But it still pops together with clips. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the cover. So I'm going to do that right now. Alright, to get in here, and mine just pops apart with these little clips. There's a clip up here, and there's probably a clip on the other side. And we're just going to have to push them and kind of pop them apart the best we can here. Let's see here. If I can't, there's one on the top up here, and one down, one over here, one on the top. I'm going to try to get it apart without breaking it, because otherwise I'll probably have to put zip ties around it, and I don't want to have to do that. So let's see if I can pop her apart here. Alright, come apart pretty easy. Let's see. I have to pull my steering wheel thing down to my latch over here to get the collar frame away from this whole thing. Oh, there we go. I think I popped that one apart there. Pop that one apart. So it pretty much just pops apart. I'll come over there and show you here. So this is the top part right here. Let me zoom out so you can see a little bit. Alright, so this is the top part, pretty much normal cover. And this part right here popped right in there with using these clips right here. They got the clip here, the clip on the inside right here. You also had the two clip holes up here on the top part, and then over here on the left, the ignition side, because it goes like this naturally. So you had the two clips over here, inner, outer, top right here, and on the sides. And then you had to just basically just pop it apart. So there's the 3 screw holes. Had 2 screws, two at the top, one at the bottom. And but on this particular vehicle, they were already taken out. I don't know where they are. They probably fell off, routed off over the years while driving. So let me do another zoom in here and get you closer to where we're working on today. Let's see, about right there probably. So I think it's pretty much cut and dry. Let me sit over here in the driver's seat. Alright, I had to unlock my lock down here so the steering wheel will move up and down freely. So it looks like it plugs in. Let's see, a little dirty in here. Looks like it plugs in down here. And then it plugs again over here. So, trying to figure out here how to take this apart. I believe it's just right here. So there's 2 clips. I'm going to show you. Oh, I'm going to have to get out there because you're too far away to grab you. I'm going to have to bring you closer so you can see exactly what I'm looking at here. Alright, the 2 clips right here. Here's one right here, and the other one's up on the top part. So I'm going to have to unclip those because those are what, that's the wire mechanism to the ignition switch here. And it looks like there's, let's see, these 2 screws stay on there, so that's not it. Let's see, come around the steering wheel here. Alright, there's the front part right there. So it looks like there's a collar. As soon as I locate it here, let's see. Have to locate it here. This is what I call a crash course video, because as I was growing up and learning things, as I was working on things, you see, when you find parts like this, and it's a weird looking part, I'm not sure exactly where it goes yet. It looks like it may be part of the ignition. This could be where my problem is and why it's drawing power from my vehicle. So let me do a little bit of a rundown here. So the problem with this vehicle is that I've had this car probably I'm gonna say about probably about 5 years, 5 to 6 years I've had this car. So the problem I'm having is that I'm having a 13.2 volt power drain, and I can't figure out where the power drain comes from. Now down here under the fuse box, right down here, you see the fuse box. Inside one of these fuse boxes, about the center of the fuse box, there was a wire that was just jammed in there, like a lot of people do. They jam wires and in the fuse box to power like fog lights, and in this case it was to power fog lights, and it was just sparking galore under there. And when I looked under there one day when I was working on the car, and I noticed that, well, I just pulled them out because my fog lights are under there, but I don't need them, so I just disconnected them. And I thought, well, maybe that's where the 13.2 volt power drain was coming from. Nope, that wasn't it. It was coming from somewhere different. So I haven't figured it out. So then I did some research online, and this year model, they said there was a recall on the ignition switch. It should have been a recall, but it was never recalled. They just let it go, like a lot of car dealerships do. They don't want to pay for the funds because they're struggling, or because some other reason they didn't make it a recall. So they said they have problems with the ignition. So when you turn the key, the ignition switch doesn't pop back like it should. Now, as you see on mine, when you turn this key, there's 1, 2, 3 written on the side of this key ring here, and there's a 0 over here. So this is turned off, as you can see. You push it in and you pull it out. So then when you put it back in, you got to push in and turn. So there's 1 right there. That's like auxiliary, powers your radio. There's 2. That can also be auxiliary. And then when you turn this, now my battery is disconnected, you know, for safety, for doing the switch and everything. I don't want to get zapped in any way, so I disconnected the battery. But at any rate, so when you turn it like this, it spring loads back. Now you can see that mine does spring load back, but what they're saying on the video, you know, the video and researches that I've done on it, and talked to some people that I know and other people, mechanics out there, they say that it's supposed to spring back just like that. That's right. But sometimes this ignition switch here gets hung up, and so it'll, even though it appears to be off, or you know, in the normal running the normal running spot, sometimes it'll stick, and it looks like it might be turned inside the mechanism, it might be turned a little bit. So the ignition is staying on like you're starting. Now, it's not clicking the starter or nothing like that while you're driving down the road, but it stays on in this portion just a little bit inside the mechanism, and it'll actually pull a draw of over 13 volts, and it'll just stay on until it runs your battery down low. And then once your battery runs down low, it just you know, everything on your car is a 12 volt system. So your fuel pump shuts down after it drops below 12 volts. Your lights go off if you're driving down the road at dark time, or your dash lights will start flickering and as the power drains, because everything runs off 12 volts. That's what you got to remember. So as the power drains under 12 volts on your battery, your alternator can't keep up with charging it at 12 volts because you got this large power drain. So what I had to do on this car is I took the alternator off and had it checked at O'Reilly's and Advanced Auto and Auto Parts store, just to make sure everybody's machines are working properly, which they were. Everybody said, your alternator's good. Everything on the alternator is working perfectly. So then I thought, well, maybe there's something wrong with the battery. So I took the battery in. I just bought the battery like 2 years ago, and it has a 3-year warranty. So I thought, well, you know, I've always had good luck with XI batteries, which I get from Home Depot. All my vehicles have those in it. And I thought, well, let me go get the battery checked out. So I had the battery checked out at a couple of different places. And they said, no, your battery's great. I mean, it's holding charge, no dead cells, everything's working properly. They said maybe you have a problem with your overload in there. So I'll show you what that looks like, because I had to replace that also. Okay, here we are in the engine compartment right next to the battery. See my XI battery. So I just take the cover off, and down in here, okay, this little brown thing here. So what you got to do with this is you got to take off this screw. You got to take off this screw. You don't have to take off these screws. These two are the main power screws that come from the battery and the battery system. But so you undo. Okay, let me show you down here closer. Not that bolt, because that's the okay. So this bolt right here, right in between the wires, see the bolt right there? Okay, so that bolt, you got to take out that bolt in between the wires. Then you come up here on the top part. The other one's down here, this one up here. So right here, you undo that bolt. Then you come over here on the firewall, and they got this little resistor here, relay. So you undo this bolt right here and pull that off. Once you get all that off, this will pull up and out of there, okay? So this whole thing will come up out of there. Now on the bottom side of that, there's a cover. And you take that cover off. There's some clips on the side and everything. You just take that cover off. And then this piece right here, after you take out this this screw here also, and this screw, that'll just pull out. This is a 40 amp. This is an 80 amp. Once you pull that out, this plate right here, it'll just push, you'll pull the plate out, just pull the plate out on this side, and then up underneath, after you push these two clips, so there's a clip right here, you push this back, see that how it moves, and then you push this one back, right here, see how that one moves, and then you push this piece from the top. Sometimes, well, this one I think came out the top, but some of them come out the bottom. When I went to pull apart, and I bought 3 of them just so I'd have spares, and they cost about roughly $5 to $8 a piece as a used part. So 2 of them worked and the other one wasn't working. So this one's now working. So what this does is it tells your computer in your car that how much voltage for the alternator to charge the vehicle. If this is burned out, then it doesn't communicate with the computer system and doesn't tell the alternator how much current to charge the battery. So this is a overload circuit that tells the alternator when to charge and how much to charge and how little to charge. And then it communicates with the battery of how much voltage to put back in the battery and how much to take away. So without this working, the whole system's not going to charge right, because your alternator is not going to charge. So my alternator wasn't charging, so I thought it was a bad alternator, so I went and had it tested. Now this is the reason why the alternator wasn't charging. So now that this is fixed, now my alternator is charging, and when you put the multimeter on here, then it tells if the numbers are going up from 14 or 12 or whatever the battery power is at. It's good to go get the battery charged at up to 12 volts or higher. This one right now is 14.3 volts, which is kind of high, but that'd be normal anywhere in between 12.6 and higher, in between 14 is normal battery operating conditions. So as long as how you tell if your alternator or the current is wrong or too high, anything over 0.50 is causing a power drain somewhere. So if your multimeter is reading over 0.50, with all your lights on and everything, then you have a power drain somewhere if you're having a problem with that. So what I had to do is that basically after I got the alternator checked and the battery checked, and I put the multimeter, the red probe. Let's see, the red probe. I'm kind of trying to remember here where I put the red probe. So you put the red probe, I believe, on the negative post, and then you put the positive or I should say, I'm gonna say, to put the positive on the negative, you put the negative on the ground here, and that will tell you. I believe that's what tell you. I might be backwards there. I'm gonna have to go back and check that. So I'm not even gonna say do that. Don't do that. I have to make sure that that's the way you do it. It's been so long since I've done it to do it. I'll have to go back and do a little bit of research. I might have wrote it down somewhere. But anyways, so this is the load power circuit, which does control the power for the alternator. Okay, now I'm going to go back inside and see if we can't take the ignition off. Try to find out where that broken piece comes from, and then we'll just go from there. Okay, so now we're just going to basically, so now I'm going to take apart these wires here. So I'm not sure where this one goes yet, or even if it's part of the ignition, I'm not really sure yet. But this might be what's caused my problem, since it's broke off from somewhere. And the wires here kind of melted right around in here. So, according to the old one, there's a clamp that goes around the steering column back here somewhere. So I'm just simply looking to see where that might be. So as soon as I relocate it here, or as soon as I locate where it is, I'll start off from there. Okay, I'm going to show you with the new ignition switch and lock. So this is a new ignition switch. I took it out of the white box there. If you're wondering, when I showed you earlier, here's the schematics. This is a 1996 CX model. This is a 4-cylinder manual. This is the information on the box. So it looks the same there. It's got this part. It got that little round circle there. It's got this screw hex there. It's got the 2 connectors right here. You got this one here, it's 4. This one here looks like it's 4 also, or maybe 5. 4, it's 4. And it's got 4 wires coming out right there. This one's got 4 wires this has got 3 wires coming out, so it's got 3 terminals. There we go, 3 terminals. The other one doesn't have anything in it. And then it's got this collar right here, which is what I want to show you. Now I'm throwing the camera all around, I apologize for that. Okay, so here's the collar. This goes around the steering column. Now this over here, this is the collar that goes over top of here like so. And then it's got these two screws that it gives you some keys that go with it. Let's see, here's the screws. So here's the screws right here. This is the type of screw it is. And that goes in here with the bracket on it. Okay, this is where on the steering column, you see the steering wheel is up right here, right there, kind of blurry, I know, but here's the camera doesn't like to focus when it's sometimes moving around like that. So there's where I gotta do. So those 2 straight screwdrivers, which is weird, they're straight while they're not bolted like the other ones. That's probably a new part that was made because they probably stripped the straight probably stripped out. Probably having a hard time getting it off, so they changed it to a bolt fashion. So anyway, so I got to take those off, and you'll have to do the same if you're doing this particular job. So we're going to hold right there, and then I'll start undoing those. Alright, apologize for all the running around here, but unfortunately the camera's on the other side of the vehicle. I didn't think there'd be room for it on the driver's side, so... But anyway, so I'm just going to use this straight screwdriver here. This particular one's got a ratchet on it, so it makes it a little bit easier to ratchet them out. So they're not very tight. They were just on there snug. So now I'm just simply undoing it. We'll disconnect the wires once I get it down when I have a little bit more room. Alright, so this one's that one's undone there. Now, I'm going to take the other side off here. Just simply by putting that one right there. Wasn't even snug at all. It was loose. So I guess over the years it's just loosened up. So, okay. Looks like that one might just about be free. Let me see. Can't really tell from here. There it goes. It just popped off. So now I'm going to take a magnet here. I got a little magnet thing down in here, like a pin magnet. You can get these at Harbor Freight or Auto Parts. I think this one came from. Just simply a magnet. So I'm going to take the screws out with that. Here's the first screw. See how that one's designed a little bit differently than the one. So I'm just going to pop that down on the floor for now. And then we're going to pull the other one out over here. Alright, that one needs to be loosened up a little bit more. It's not out yet. I'm going to give it a few turns here. There we go. It just fell out on the floor. Perfect. There we go. There's that one. Put that one on the floor. Then I'm going to take my magnet and get the clip off that goes around the steering column, which is right here. There's the inside. There's the outside. It says SL4 on it. I would say that's probably original. And then now the ignition here is, I'm going to push this back up a little bit so that it gets out of the way. So this should be pretty loose right now. See now, see how that just popped right out. And it's identical to the other one. So earlier I told you that the wires for the ignition were up here. That was actually for the turn signal. There's more wires over here identical, which is also the turn signal. But these wires connect underneath the steering column right here. So I have located them here. They're yellow. These are particular ones are yellow. So I'm going to have to take off this panel right here also. So I'm going to do that right now. Let me see if it's probably Phillips. Yes, it's Phillips. Phillips screwdriver is what you would need. So I got a Phillips screwdriver right here. So I'm just going to simply undo the screws. There's one down here on the bottom. There's one up here by the fog light switch. And there's one over here on the bottom. And I don't think there's any other one. I think there's just 3 screws. So now I'm going to go ahead and take these out. I've had this off before because I've had to do some work on a switch in here before a long time ago. So I'm going to pop that screw out. Just make sure you don't lose your screws because Honda likes to charge top dollar for these screws, unfortunately. I had to buy some screws on a different project and they were like $18 for 4 screws, which was ridiculous, but at any rate. You can't get them at a hardware store because they're the wrong sizes. There we go. So pop that one out. This will just come down. I got to undo this screw over here so I can pull it down the rest of the way here. Well, I can't see very far away where that screw head is. Come on, get in there. There we go. All right, just undo that one. All right, we're beyond scratches on this vehicle, believe me. This is just a work car, nothing more, nothing less. It does get really good gas mileage. That's one of the reasons why I got this Honda Civic, because I bought it from a guy that bought it from an auction, and I paid way too much money for it. But I think I paid somewhere right around $16.50 for this car. I think it should have been more like $200, but this car was, everything on this car was worn out. I mean everything. And so you got to disconnect this wire over here. I don't know if you can see it in the video. It's a green wire. Just disconnect that, and then you'll just take this whole thing out. I'll just slide it on. Look, my chains. Your chains is in here, so be careful. I almost dumped it out on the ground. So I'm just going to lay it over there on the ground so my chains don't fall out. So, at any rate, now that I can see everything, the wire looks like, let's see, I can probably give you a little bit of a close-up here. Let me see what we got here. I'll bring you a little closer so you can see. All right, right there underneath the column, there's a column that has an F on it. I don't think you can see it right there. There's the F. So right to the middle of that, roughly, there's these wire connectors right here. And I believe this is what goes to the ignition. So next, I'm going to pop those apart, and I'll show you a more of a close-up once I can get them popped off. Save some time here. I think it might take a few minutes to get them popped apart. Okay, let me show you what I have here. So here's the two connectors right here for the well, let's see, that's not, well, okay, let me see here. Nope, okay, that has nothing to do with, okay, so let me plug them back in. All right, here's another thing I found up in the dash. So you see this cover, this is actually a crash impact bar. It goes all the way across over to here, this up here where my finger is. There's one bolt up there on the top, there's another bolt up here on the top. So I'll show you a close-up. See that bolt right there? And see that ground wire going in there? Now, I haven't touched it, but I've noticed, all right, sorry about the shaking here. So I've noticed, see how this wire is loose? See how I'm able to, let's see, I'm gonna get my camera here to cooperate. Okay, you see how this wire is loose? See how I'm moving it freely with my finger? And it just pops in there behind there? It looks like it's just a C thing. It just pops right in behind that washer. It was just like that. That's how easy it was. So I'm thinking now that my ignition switch is probably not bad. I'm thinking the problem of my 13.2 volt power loss has to do with this ground problem right here. So as you well know, for a lot of electrical components, like on zero turns and lawnmowers and anything that has electrical, so if your ground wire is not connected to ground and it's loose, even on a battery terminal can do this. If your ground on your battery terminal is not tight and it's able to move around freely like that, that's probably where the problem is. There's probably nothing wrong with my ignition switch. But just because I'm not sure about it, I'm going to go ahead and replace it anyways. Now that I have all the parts off, and I've already bought the part, and it's too frustrating. I ordered it online because it was, not that it was much cheaper, but I just like the parts where I order from. I order all my stuff from Rock Auto online just because they have a lot of the same parts that O'Reilly has, and that's usually where I go. If I don't need the part right away, I just order it because it's sometimes way cheaper. And on top of that, if you're not needing it right away, it just saves you the money. So that right there, I believe, is my problem. Possibly. I've had other problems on this car working on it, and it hasn't been the problem. But I'm going to go ahead and do the ignition because that broken piece is broken off there anyways. So I have a feeling it's either that problem or the other problem. So I'm going to go ahead and put that wire back on there and tighten that bolt up and tighten the other bolt over here. Now the wire connectors, I'm going to show you in a second because I think I found them up underneath the firewall here, and I'll show you in a second. Okay, I'm up underneath the dash. This is the fuse box right there. Now you see that wire right here. It's brown. We're looking for a brown wire. Right here is where my finger, see that right there? That's where the brown one on part of the ignition plugs in. I believe that this one is, let's see, this one is the 3-wire. So the 3-wire plug plugs in right there, just above. It's like right on the edge of this. Right there you see 10 amp. There's a 20 amp below it, and there's a 7 amp brown one right above it. That's right where this plug plugs in for the ignition. This is the 3-wire. All right, I have found that where that ground wire plugs in right there. Let's see, let's get a good view of, there it is. I'm gonna have to take this cover off right here, this protection cover for crash impact. Take the bolt off on this side and right up here. See this right here, this bolt right here on that side. So now we're gonna take that cover off. In order to get to the wire, the second connector for the ignition, you have to take that bar off, or you can't get to it. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. And you can do yours as well. All right, what I use is this extension to get in there. And this is a 10 millimeter socket on a 3/8 inch drive. Now for the other side, I have to use this another longer extension. This is an 8.5 extension. You can get that at auto parts stores, Walmart, Napa, O'Reilly's, any auto parts store. And I had to use this one on on the side of the ignition where you turn the car on, because otherwise you can't reach it. So I had to get this extension here. Okay, so I got my bar out. Now if you notice on the back side of this bar, protection bar, they got these little tabs right here. See that tab? Okay, there we go. That tab. Now that tab hooks in a groove, in a little square groove, right beside this bolt hole right here. So when you take this thing off, you got to pull up a little bit and then pull straight out. And that's how you get this off. Then when we put it back in, we'll have to put it back down in those grooves and then push it down before we can get the bolt holes right here to line up. Okay, let me show you a closer view. This is behind that bar. Now you see all these different connections in here. This goes to your turn signals, it goes to your radio, it goes to a lot of different things. So this is the 4-wire connection right here, this right here, which is right above where this blue line is here, right here. This is where your blue line for the impact bar, that's where the bolt goes, right there for that ground wire. So I'm gonna clean that up a little bit with a wire brush. All right, here's the wire brush here. This is a brass one. I get this set at Harbor Freight really cheap. I think it's like $3 or $4 for a whole set, and it comes with long ones, short ones, a plastic one for those type of delicate jobs. And I'm not sponsored by Harbor Freight, but I do use a lot of their tools. So I'm just gonna take this, and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do here. So there's where the hole of the ground is. So you wanna make sure that's clean. So I'm just gonna scratch the surface to make sure all the rust is away from the clean metal. Now you can see it's nice and clean. So when I put that impact bar back on there, and I'll clean the back side of the impact bar as well. All right, the back side of it is right here. This is on the passenger, or this is on the driver's side, but it's on the side opposite of the turnkey. So right here, this bolt right here, I'm gonna put my finger on it right there. There we are. Right there, that bolt hole, make sure all that around there is nice and clean, shiny metal. And that's what I'm gonna do right now, and you could do yours also. And there we have it, all nice and clean. And I went ahead and did the other side because it just seemed like the right thing to do. You gotta remember that when the thread, the bolt going in there is metal, so it's going into metal threads, and that ground wire is probably hooked to ground somewhere else on the body of the car, which I'm going to try to locate that wire, unless it's inside the wiring harness somewhere, and find out that it's grounded also, because if it's not grounded on the other end very well and it's loose too, that can cause a problem with the electrical system. Make sure all your ground areas on your battery, the hook to the car, on the frame, everywhere, search this car for all the different places where ground can be connected that has to do with the electrical system. And that'll also keep everything else working properly too. The reason why your lights flicker, and sometimes not just because the bulb's going out, but sometimes it's a ground problem. And if that ground screw's not tightened up securely, then your lights will still flicker even if you have a brand new bulb. Okay, I've tracked down where the blue wire goes. Okay, the blue ground wire goes in this connector right here. You see the blue wire? You run it all the way up through here, underneath that wire there, all the way up through here, and it comes up right to this ground wire. See it wiggling down here? Let's see. See that whole wire harness there? That's where that blue ground wire, when it goes behind that impact bar. So it goes right into this green switch, and this green switch goes right into the fog light button on the dashboard, and I'll show you that in a second. Now I put it over here because I got my change in here and I didn't want it to fall out. So I just popped it out. So this is the fog light. This is what's on the dash. It looks like this, and this is where the green switch. So now, voila, there you go. It clips right in there just like that, and this is what your fog light is. Now I was having a problem with my fog light, so I traced the wires down into the engine compartment, down to the bottom of the car, on the bottom of the skirt, and the wires under there weren't even connected. Half of them were broken off and some of them were connected. So I just disconnected all of it because I didn't want a power drain, and I don't need those lights. I just ended up putting brighter headlights on that had a higher wattage, and that fixed my problem. So that's where it plugs in, into that switch. So maybe the reason why the ground, the fog lights weren't working properly was because that wire up here, that wire right up there, was not grounded properly. So that's probably why they never worked properly. Now over here is where your radio antenna plugs into, right here from your radio antenna. And if that's not plugged in all the way, it can cause a problem, and that's where it is. Usually it's behind this is probably an extender wire that goes from the radio because it was too short, so they added the extension, like an extension cable for the antenna, and that's where they plugged it in right here, and then this goes right to the antenna on the car. And mine's on the passenger side, and just pops up, but I don't usually use it because I don't use the radio anymore. So anyways, so now what we're going to do is this is the 4-wire ignition switch one, so we're going to disconnect that right now, and then the other one is right here, right where my finger is, right below the one on the bottom of this blue connector here, which has to do with the electrical equipment in the car, probably for the heater or something else. So I'm going to do that right now, and you can do yours too. Okay, so I don't want you all to break yours. I didn't break mine, but this push button, now this is the little one, the 3-wire. All you have to do is push this push button right here down. See how it moves down by pushing it down? So you push that down with your finger, and then lightly pull the switch out. You can grab a hold of the wires, but just don't pull on them too hard because you don't want to pull the terminals out. They're in there pretty good, so I don't think there'll be a problem. Now, on the upper one up here, see how that one is right here. So this one, right in the middle of this one, there's a push button right here. See, right here, this is the push button right here. Same one's on the other one. So what I did was, I'll put it back in there. So what I did was I put my thumb right underneath all the wires, and I pushed up on the switch of my thumb. I put my other 2 fingers, these 2 fingers, on top of the wire for support, and I just pushed up on there, real nice and snug, squished all 3 of my fingers together with my thumb, and just pulled straight out, and it just pulled right out real easy, like so. As a matter of fact, I'll just push it, pop it back in the hole. I'll just push up on that button and just pulls right out. I just shook it back and forth a couple times, and it just easily slid back out. Okay. All right, so an easy trick on these little zip ties. See this zip tie right here? So this zip tie, let me get my fingers up there. This zip tie right here, right there, it's a clear one. It's attached to the steering column bracket there. And if you take a needle nose pliers or pliers and squish on both sides of that and pull straight out, it should release that there. And I don't have a way to hold the camera and show you, but if you just put your wrench on both sides of that and squeeze it and pull straight out, it should pop right out. These are needle nose pliers right here. Harbor Freight or any parts store. Okay, on mine, due to probably age, you can see it right there, the clear one there, right here. Where's my finger at? Right there. So out of age, it just snapped. So I'm gonna have to pop that out of there with a little tool that has a kind of like a little pry bar screwdriver, and I'll show you in a second what that looks like. And then what I'm probably gonna have to do is pop that clip out of there and just put in a regular zip tie when I put it back. All right, now all my wires are free. So you just have to basically pull them out from around all the other wires, and you pop them down like so. So this yellow one needs to be put back up in there because that was not part of the ignition. So then I'm going to pull all my wires down here. So this is basically what we have. Here's the 2 connectors, and thank goodness they're the right color because sometimes they're not. That means I got the right one. So I'm just going to put the wires up around. Now you got this metal bar right here, which is connected to the whole steering column and everything. This metal right here, all this bar here with my fingers going all around it. This bar. So the wires for the ignition go up through that, up through there. Now there appears to be a clip of some sort, and I'll show you the clip on this side. So the clip pops in this hole. See that little right here, that clip? So you take your needle nose pliers. Now I'm going to try to do it while we're here on the video so you can see me do it as well. Okay, I'll try to steady the camera here. Okay, This is a clip right here. I got my needle nose pliers. So if you just simply take your needle nose pliers and squeeze the little tabs in, wiggle it back and forth as you're doing it. See how it's almost popped through right there? Let me see if I can get a little bit of a blow up here. Yeah, right there. Here it is right there. I squeeze it together. Well, can't get a view on the camera here. Let's see, it's too close, I guess. There it is. Now you can see it. It's trying to focus here. I just don't know if it's going to focus all the way. But anyway, as you can see it, I pushed it with the needle nose plier, so I got it just where it pushed in by wiggling it a little bit. And now I'm just going to take my finger and pop it through the rest of the way. Boop, there we go. Pop right through. So now it's free. So now I'm just going to simply pull these wires up through, just the black ones with the brown tips down there. I'm going to pull them all the way through that metal tube there. That yellow wire is kind of getting in the way, but we're not going to worry about that too much. Alright, we're just going to have to push that down a little bit and force the brown ones up in the hole. Alright, now here is the whole ignition right here. All the wires and everything connected. Now this little piece right here, I'm hoping comes with the new one and it's not broken off like that. So I'll have to check the new one here and let's see what we got. Now these other yellow wires under the dash here, and I'll show you. Now these I thought were the ignition wires originally, but they weren't. So I'm gonna, and the only reason why they're loosened like that, they would normally be connected up here in the connector like so, but I popped them off. So now that everything's open under there, I'll be able to pop them back under there. Was never supposed to take them off in the first place, but I didn't know that at the time. So anyways, let me get this together. Okay, now that we got both pieces out, I'm hoping you can see here. So this is the brand new this is the brand new ignition switch right here. So you see this plastic right here, this part. Now on the old one, this is completely broke off. That's where that piece goes. So let me show you on the old one. This is the old one right here. Remember that same piece that was broke off like so? Let me see if I can't get the camera to cooperate here. Okay, so this piece was broke off, and this piece is broke off from right here. This is where it goes, right there. The same place where this one, the new one, has it over here. It's the same bracket. That piece is broken out. So this is a defective, and it broke off from right here on the side. So that's probably where my ignition is probably drawing power that's not supposed to be drawing power. But you can see the wires in there, and there's a ground wire down inside the mechanism where the lock is. So that's broke off. That's a bad ignition. So this one over here, the new one, doesn't come with that clip that's right here. This is a clip we need to take off. So you can simply take a screwdriver. Well, matter of fact, you can probably just push that clip right here. See my thumb's right on it? You just push this clip button up, and it should release that collar. And then we'll put that collar right in the middle over here on a new one in the same place. So all you have to do is just go by this little piece of wire that comes down, measure out to how far it is, and that will tell you where to put it on the new one. So this is what I did. I put my two units on top of each other where they both match like perfectly. And then I just simply measured the wire out from how they both fit on there so I get it right in the right spot. And then I'll put this clip probably about right here. About the same place where this piece of tape is basically in the same exact spot. So somebody back then knew what they were doing to be somewhat accurate. Okay, I'm going to show you on this clip right here. This clip is very old and very brittle, so you got to be very careful. So what I did was I took a screwdriver. Now I'm going to try to show you this. Hopefully I can prop that up on there so you can see. Let me just wedge it down in that little spot right there. So what I did was took these little bitty little screwdriver, a real small screwdriver. You can use any screwdriver that's about this small, like a little pin screwdriver. So what I did, let's see if I can get a close-up. So I'm going to point to it right here, right there. See that little piece right there where my screwdriver is? You're going to have to press up on that all the way to the top of this bottom of the clip. You push on that, and then on the other side, you take your needle nose pliers and you pull on this part of the clip. So you see this part back here, this real wide? Let me see, right there. See that part that's real wide? That's the part that comes out the other end. If you take your needle nose pliers and you pull on that just a little bit while you're pushing down that little flap right there, that little tab, there's a tab right there at the top of that, underneath that little round circle part. And then down here is just a regular clip. It doesn't have anything to do with the actual piece that we're working with. So basically, let me see if I can hold it here and point to it with the camera. Hopefully the camera will suffice here. So, okay. So right here, this little piece right here, see where my screwdriver's pointing at? You push that all the way to the top on the bottom of this little ring right here, and that will release. By pulling this on the other side, it'll release and just pull right out. Real simple. So now, you're just gonna reconnect that to the other wire. So there, now I started to put it on this actual piece right here. So what I'm gonna do is take this tab right here and just push it right through the other side. All right, it pushes in real simple. See how mine is now started right there. So you just continue pushing it in there. You hear it clicking. Hear it click, click, okay. All right, this is what it looks like when it's done. See how the little tab's sticking out past the button right there? So if you push that button, that little peely piece you see there right on the top, right beneath this little round plastic piece right here with my thumb's on, if you push that to the top and push this through, it'll push right through. Now mine's tight, and that's what yours should look like after you did it with me. Okay, now I'm gonna simply try to get all the wires back through that metal collar. I'm going to try to talk a little bit louder so that you can hear me. Okay, so we're just simply going to put the wires back through this thing. Alright, well, first I have to tuck my wires back up in this bracket down here now that I can see it good. I'm going to push those wires back up in there. They clipped right in. And let's see, this one goes on the top. It just simply slides like skis and clips right to the same connector switch here. So now they're up out of the way. Now I can take my new one and put my wires. Just make sure that your ignition switch is turned the right way. So this is the way it goes. This goes up in the collar up here, and the ignition switch sticks out over here. So basically, we're just gonna run these down this metal tube with the F on it. Just run them down through there the best you can without hurting any of the wires or anything. So I'm just gonna push them down through there. It's a little awkward because you got weight going down, so you just kind of hold the wires one by one and then push the other one through there with the other finger like so. There you have it. They popped out the other end. There they are. Now I'm going to simply feed this all the way down in, remembering to keep your ignition going the right direction as you push it down in. Alright, let's see, the clip I believe goes up through that same hole, which the hole is right here on the side. This is where the clip goes. If you see my finger tapping on it, it's to the right of the F. There's a little hole right there where we pulled this wire connector out of right here. So I'm going to push it down in there, down through the hole with this tube, and I'm lining up with the bottom and put that little button. Now that little button that comes out on the bottom, I'll show you on the old one what I'm talking about. And there's a hole. This hole is drilled through the steering column. So there's a hole through the steering column down there when you got this. So this plunger button right here. See this plunger button right here? How it pushes in and out? Right there. Right there. That button. That goes right up through that hole. When you look under there, let me see if I can show you here. Alright. Let's see. Let me zoom out here. Alright, see this hole right here? I got my finger on pointing right at, right there. That's the hole in the steering column. That button goes against inside that hole. That's exactly where it goes. So you'll want to put it right in that hole, just like mine. Right there. When you do yours, let's see if I can get another view over here. Nope, can't get another view. So this right here, that little button goes right up through that hole through your steering column. And as you turn your steering wheel, it'll probably have a hole somewhere in there because there's a reason for that button. So what you need to do, you're going to put that around there. And I'm going to go ahead and put my clip back on. I'll show you that in a second. As soon as I get a better view once I get it up in there. That way it'll help hold it in there when I go to pop this clip into that hole down here. And I'm going to see if I can pop it in while I'm still holding the camera here. So let's see here. Right about there is where the clip is. No, I'm not going to be able to do it while I'm holding the camera, so but I've already showed you where it goes and you know where the old one popped out. So just line it up with that hole and pop that little clip, plastic brown clip, back in that hole. Okay, as you can see, my button's back in. See, I get a little blow up here. See the button right there? My button popped back in. Yeah, stick your finger up through that hole and wiggle it around a little bit and all that. And it'll go in there. But it's just a little bit of a pain to get that up in there. I have to stick my finger up through the back through here, back up under that cover, and just keep trying to, it's kind of like a needle, a fat needle trying to go through a little hole there. It'll pop in. It took me about 5 minutes to get it in there. There was no way to really hold the camera right there so I could do it, and I had to use the whole floorboard, and I wear glasses, so my glasses kept falling off because I couldn't get the right angle. But anyways, you get the picture. You get it in the hole. It's a little tricky. All right, next, we're going to attach the this little C thing here. It's now the other. Oh, here we go. I'm still blowing up here. Let me unblow you up here. All right, this is the new hardware. This has a SL4 on it, which I'm thinking that's probably just a identification number or product number that the distribution or the people that make it probably put on there. Is probably why it's different. I've seen different ones before. So anyways, we're going to put this together pretty quickly, just for sake of time. So I'm going to put that back up here. So I showed you before, right up here. It goes right down here in between that hole, right down in there where you go over that. Make sure that button is in the hole of the steering column. And then you'll just mount it right there. All right, this is an 8mm nut. The nut that comes with the kit, I'll put it right there on my leg so you can see it. Okay, there's the nut right there. So this is exactly an 8mm, and it's got the end that you got to pop in there. The little this little thing right here pops right in there. This is a 3/8 drive. This pops right into the socket. Like so. And I put my extension on there just so I can reach down there. And let me show you what it looks like down in the hole where we're going. Now this is your steering column right here. I'm going to point my wrench right here where that shiny part is in between. That's where that bracket goes. It lays right on that. And so that's when you put that on top of there, which your bracket will look a lot like this. So I'll put that down on there like so. It'll fit right on that shiny part like so, like this. And then you'll bolt the bottom of your, to where the two holes line up. That's where you'll bolt it in. And we're doing that together right now. Okay, so on mine, you see these little, right here, this lower one, the green wires pops out of. And the one on top, this little plastic piece here is where this one pops. So you just push right here, right there. You push in that tab and push in this tab right here on that one. Just pop these out of the way because they're in your way when you're putting this bracket on. So you can't get to the bracket unless you pop those two steering turn signal wires off. Okay, we'll reconnect those once we get the bracket on. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, the turn signal wires on the other side, as you can see, I had to pull them out too. You pull them out the same way as you do the other side. You can't get your screw or your bolt in the hole right there as you see on the left. You can't, in the threads, you can't get it down in there, which is right here, unless you take that wires clips out of here. You can't get your bolt down in there very easily. I have big fingers, and so it's real hard for me to get my fingers down there. You might have smaller fingers, which is great for doing electrical work or any other kind of mechanic work, and you can get your fingers right down in there with no trouble. Now you see how my bracket is on there. So what you want to do is you want to get this collar right here right here where I'm tapping my finger, you want to put it perfectly smooth over the original slot here to where it's lined up perfectly in that width, on that width with your collar. Now, when you put the button through the hole down there, so what you do is when your steering wheel locks, it's because of that hole that's in that button. Your button will pop in that hole and it'll lock your steering wheel. And that's how your steering wheel locks. Then when you turn the key to the on position, then the button will be able to compress. And then when you turn the steering wheel a little bit to the other, whichever direction, then that button will pop out. And that's what locks your steering wheel and unlocks your steering wheel. That's what the button's for. Now I'm going to go ahead and line it up with the silver, the shiny part, perfectly round with the bracket. Make sure that your key is perfectly parallel. And you might have to put your cover back on, just the bottom part of the cover, just so that you can see exactly where the keyhole is and where you need to tighten down the bracket. So I'm going to do that right now, and you can do the same. This is how you can put your extension down in there on top of that. And I'm holding up with my other hand on the bottom ignition so that it doesn't move, and so that you can keep the slack in between the bracket and the bottom of the ignition so that you can tighten down your bolts properly. Now that I have it snug, it's not tightened down all the way, but it's snug. I'm just showing you how it's supposed to look. I got the silver part is completely covered perfectly on the lines. Now I'm going to grab my cover for the ignition and see if my ignition is in the proper place where the cover will just pop together smoothly. Now I'm going to go get that. Now over here, you want to put this lever back through this slot by pushing it all the way down, and then put the cover around it, then push this all the way back up to where it locks your steering wheel. Push your column of the steering wheel all the way up and lock it in place like I did. Then you put your, in this case, I had mine perfectly centered. I mean, it's amazing. You'll never have that happen twice for myself, probably. Not to think down on myself, but hey, rarely do I get things perfectly in alignment without even checking it first. But mine's perfectly aligned. Hopefully yours went together just like mine. And I might have to, the gap here I can see is just a little bit high right here. I could push it down just a little bit, which I did. Now it's more centered with the hole. So there I didn't get it perfectly, but it looked pretty darn close. I just pushed it down, not even a 1/2 of an inch. And now it's perfectly, and now I know it's going to match. So I'm just going to hold my knee right there, and I'm going to take my 3/8 inch drive and go ahead and tighten it down, and to make sure that it doesn't move. And you can do the same too while I'm doing mine. Okay, I had to put my short extension, which is only a 2.5 inch long extension here, this black one, in order to get down there. The other one, the silver one, was too long, which was 8.5. And of course, that was the big long one. And my other silver one was about 6. The black one was an 8.5, and the silver was probably about a 6 inch. This is a 2.5, and this is perfect. This will fit down there with your ratchet, and you'll be able to tighten up those bolts properly. Now, it turns out that I had to take this black cover out here. In order to do that, there's a screw hole right here. There's another screw hole right here. And that's all the screws. And once you take those out, you might have to, there's a clips in there, so you need to pull it out just a little bit. Mine just popped right out. It's old. Matter of fact, mine didn't have any screws in it because somewhere down the line they probably vibrate out. So then you're going to have to pull this lever down here, down like so, to drop the steering wheel. And then you can pull out this cover here. And then you can get to the bolts a lot easier. And this is what it looks like when you pull that cover out. You can see your speedometer. If you ever need to take your speedometer out, there's the screw holes right there, over here. And also, I think that's it on that one. It'll just pull right out of there. But that's another video. Alright, this is what it looks like. I just put it to where it was snug, and then I gave it just about a 1/6 of an inch turn, and to where they're both tight. You don't want to over tighten it because it is aluminum. The metal is, the bolts in the bracket are metal, but the part you're putting it into, that you're threading into, is aluminum. So you don't want to turn too hard. Just snug it, and then a little bit of a 1/16 of an inch turn, boom, it's done. Now that it's mounted on it, the button's in the hole like properly. So when you're tuning your steering wheel, it'll lock, but we don't want to lock it right now because we're still working down here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to push the lever and push the steering wheel back up like so and lock this. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to in reverse, we're going to put all the components back in. Now we got to take these wires down here and we got to run it up through the other wires until where we can plug it in. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, now I'm simply just popping back in. Here it click, pop back in. These are the steering turn signal plugs that we took out a minute ago. Same as the key side. You got the little turn signal here. You want to pop that back into the clear one here. Then you want to take the other one and pop it into that black one, the black casing right here. Oh, where's my camera? There we are. Here's the black casing. You can see it right there. I'm going to plug it back in there until it clicks. There we go, clicked right in, perfect. And I put my black cover up here back in. Mine just simply just pops in with the, make sure you get the clips on the black part on top of the clips when you pop yours back in. And then you put your screws back in. You got one up here in the corner and one up here on the other side right here. Now when you pop back in your ignition, you see these grooves right here. It's kind of like a train track. You got a groove right here, and you got a groove right here on the other side where I'm tapping my thumb. Now those, as you can see, the connector up here has the same kind of groove. Right here, there's a groove, and on the other side, there's a groove. You can see it in the picture. You want to line those grooves up the same. Same as with the one up here, how you have the grooves. Well, this one right here, let me see. This one doesn't have grooves, it's flat. So you put the flat part down, or I should say you put the flat part up, excuse me. You put the flat part up and then you put the push button, which is right here. This push button goes in a down position right there. It slides in the groove. It can only go one way. Can't go upside down. You'll have it in, once you hear this click in position, you'll have it in the right way. So while I'm doing mine, you can do yours too. Now what I like to do while I'm down here, just make sure when you do this brown one, you put your thumb on one side and your fingers on the other, kind of like this, and just press them real tight together to make sure you got a good connection, same as all these. Now down here, while I'm down here, I just go ahead and push everything and just make sure everything's plugged in properly. All right, in a few seconds, we're gonna, okay, we still need to zip tie this. See the clear bracket, the clear here? I still need to zip tie this back up. You know what? Well, no, it broke off. But I think I could get that little piece pulled out of there. And then let's see if you can see it a little bit better there. That little piece sticking out. I think I might be able to get that out. Maybe put that tab back in there. And while you're doing yours, I'll do mine too. You might have to take extra zip ties and zip tie things up a little closer to other wires just so they'll stay up so you don't hit it with your foot when you're working your stick shift there, your clutch pedal and everything. You don't want to hit any wires down here. Make sure they're all tucked up tight and not in the way with the steering column turning or anything else, because you don't want to wear through wires. Okay, so you go do yours and I'll do mine. Okay, I'm going to show you a little trick. So I pulled that little button out, same way I did, squeeze it with the needle nose pliers, and it looks kind of like this. So what I did was I took a zip tie and I put it upside down to where the clicker doesn't click it anymore. And I put it upside down where this was facing the opposite direction, the zip tie. So, because this goes inside of here like so. So what I did was I put a zip tie facing the opposite direction under there to where the clicking part doesn't go on the grooves. It just goes flat on there so it doesn't. So you can push it in and out from both sides real easily. See how you can push it in and out real easily? Like so. So what I'm going to do is pop this clip back in, and then I'm going to turn it around like this and just put it in there like so and push it through. And then I can use the same clip with a different zip tie. I just happen to have a bag from Harbor Freight. I bought some bag of clear zip ties as well as black ones. And that's how I'm going to reattach my wires, using their same clip but a different zip tie. And you can do the same as you're doing this video with me. Now I'm going to show you the hole where it goes. You see this clip here hanging down right here. See this right here? I got my finger pointing on it. I'm tapping on it right now. That's where you put this piece up through. It just pops up. It pops on the top part. Let me see here. So yeah, you put it like this. So you put the I can't, let me pull it out. So you put the pointed end, you put that through the hole, not through the back side, but through the top side. You just pop it right through the hole, and I'll show you in a second. There you have it. I popped mine through the hole. Now when I put my wires on in a second, I'll show you what it looks like when I attached all my wires to that clip using my own zip tie. This happened to be clear, and I turned it upside down so the clicker was the opposite direction. And there you have it. Voila! There you go. So I didn't put it super tight because you don't want it to cut into the wire or the cover. You just want it to hold it there snugly to keep it up out of the way so that when you operate all your pedals behind the cover of the console so that you don't hit anything. And there you have it. Perfect. We used their own components, and that worked out great for us too. All right, now all I did was took my needle nose and just cut off the excess piece right here. And we just cut that off. And then all my wires are all nice and snug. Now we're going to put back on the metal impact beam. And then we're going to take this wire here, the ground wire, and put it in behind that bolt like I showed you earlier. And you'll go ahead and do the same with me. I'm just going to show you this bar. See the bar, see the little square hole? That's where your metal tabs go into. Just make sure they're in there. And of course the bolt goes through that hole right there. Alrighty, let's do this together. Alright, as you can see that my bolt right here. Alright, this little slot right here, you can rest your tool, your extension tool, your rounds extension tool in there to help stabilize it when you put your